Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel where I teach you guys how to build iOS apps by building an app from the Apple App Store from scratch. And today we are going to continue with how to build the Facebook Messenger chat application. And this is actually part 3 of the video. So part 1 and part 2, we learned how to build the UI, and then part 2, we learned how to use core data to kind of power the collection view behind our application. So having said all that, let's go into the simulator here, and I'm going to look at the actual final product that we're trying to build. And basically we have a recent messages screen, and upon clicking into the screen we get a list of messages, basically the chat log for our friend. So let's go back into Xcode here, and this is the latest code that we have from part 2 of the video, and this only has 2 messages with 2 friends, Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg. So that's all for the recap. Let's go ahead and get into the actual code that we want to implement to get our screen here. So Steve Jobs actually has a lot of messages, not just one. So today we are going to figure out how to get multiple messages for a friend. Now I'm going to illustrate what happens after I enter a second message for Steve Jobs right here. I'm just going to copy and paste that for now and call this message Steve2. And I want to create an actual dialogue to illustrate what happens. So Steve will say good morning for his first message, and I want to actually say hello, how are you? So Steve has 2 messages currently. First one says good morning, and the second one says hello, how are you? So I'm going to run that one more time and see if I can get an error to show up. Okay, there we go. So notice how the first row for Steve says hello, how are you? And that's actually the first message, or the second message that we've set. So one problem is that the ordering of the messages right now is kind of random and is not ordered at all. And the second issue is that inside of your Facebook chat app, if you open it up, notice that you only get one recent message for each one of your friends. And we want to kind of replicate that here. And so in summary, we have 2 problems. We want to first fix the ordering issue here. And so an easier way of kind of addressing this whole ordering problem is if I actually create a third message instead of just message 1 and message 2. So I want to show you guys a good programming practice here, and I could simply copy and paste that and just call this 3. But because you guys are good programmers, we want to create a function here that actually creates this message. And that way we don't repeat all of this code. And this function will be called create message here. Let's see, with text string. And this will also be a parameter of, let's see, friend. This will say friend. And here we'll use context of ns managed. Let's see, okay, we're missing this func keyword here. Managed object context, like that. And this will just return null or nil. And I'm going to kind of copy and paste this chunk here. And because we are in a kind of more generic function now, we want to name our variables something a little generic as well. So they'll all be message like this. And the friend will be our friend parameter passed in like that. Text will be text as our parameter there. And then everything else is pretty much okay. So I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to reproduce all of these text messages by just creating it like this. So it's going to say good morning, and friend will be Steve. This will be context, like that. And then I'm going to paste, and create the 2 other messages. So hello, how are you? And this one let's say, what should we do? Are you interested in buying an Apple device? So Steve has those 3 messages. I'm going to delete all of those unnecessary lines, and we have now, good morning, hello, how are you? Are you interested in buying an Apple device or an Apple device? So having run that, we kind of see that the ordering is a little messed up, and I want to also add a time parameter to this function here. So I'm going to say minutes ago, and this will be a double. And basically, I want to do this. I want to do add or date by adding time interval to minutes ago. So basically, minutes ago is just going to be 1, 2, or 3. And we actually have to multiply by 60 because this function here takes in seconds. So we'll use minutes ago, so negative minutes ago. And here we'll fix these 2 functions by saying minutes ago. This will say 2 minutes ago. And here we'll use minutes ago. This will be 1 minute ago. And finally, we'll use minutes ago here of 0. I'm going to run that now. The 3 messages belonging to Steve Jobs will now say, hello, how are you? 336. And this one, are you interested in buying an Apple device? 337. And good morning will be at 335. So hopefully you guys see that the time is actually not in the correct order. And I'm going to fix the ordering by going into load data. And remember, load data is where we actually fetch all of our entities that are called messages. And inside of fetch requests, we can specify a sort descriptor array. So sort descriptors is an array, and that array will be just one object of ns sort descriptor with key of the property that we want to actually sort on, which is date, and ascending will be false. So I'm going to run that and show you guys what we get inside of our simulator. Notice now that 338, 337, and 336 is the ordering of our messages. So let's run that again to confirm that the sort actually worked. So pretty good. Good old water. And now we actually want to eliminate this Mark Zuckerberg here. So basically, the main recent messages page only contains 1 recent message per friend. And I am going to first get only Steve Jobs' last message. And to do that, we put a predicate on fetch requests. So use predicate, and that will be ns predicate of format. And this is pretty specific. So we use friend.name equals %at. And for the argument, we'll just use a hard-coded value of Steve Jobs. So if we run that now, we will filter out the Mark Zuckerberg because he's no longer Steve Jobs. And remember, friend is a relationship object on our message entity. And that's how we filter using Steve Jobs like that. And the final bit of fixing is to set the fetch limit to 1. And having done that, we'll only get the latest message for Steve Jobs at 340. It's pretty good, and that matches the last message that he sent. So, next question is, how do we get this list so that we have Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs' latest message into this collection view? And it's pretty simple. Basically, we want to execute this fetch here for all of our friends. And I'm going to do that by saying friends equals fetch friends as a separate function that I create down here. And this will be, so let's use private func fetch friends. This will return an array of friends like that, an optional array. And we will do this. So we will do this very similar fetching here. Basically, I need access to the managed object context like that. And I'll do the actual friend fetch, kind of hard to say, by using a request object of ns fetch request, that. And the entity name will be friend. So we actually need to do a do catch like this. Catch, let error, print error if we get an error. And in here, we actually do the executing of the fetch request. So execute fetch request, and this needs a try like that. And finally, we return the actual array of friends. And the reason why this is complaining is because the execute fetch only returns any object array, and we need to cast it down to friend array, and we should be fine. Finally, if we are at the very bottom here, that means that we have a non-working context, which should not happen, but we'll just return nil if that ever does occur. So finally, we get to line 92, and I want to print out, just for clarity's sake, I'll print out all of my friends' names. First I need to unwrap friend like that, and print out friend.name. To show you, upon loading, I'm going to just print out Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs' name right here. So that's pretty good. And like I was saying before, I need to execute this fetch right here per friend inside of this loop. And for each friend, I'm going to replace it with friend.name here. And we need to unwrap it like so. And I don't really like how I'm unwrapping this friends here, because fetch friends can actually return a nil like that. So to fix that, we just do if let, like so. And then we will put all of this code inside of here. And then we'll take away the bang there, and everything appears just fine now. So if I run now, I still have a problem where I'm replacing messages every time I go through the loop. So I actually want to instantiate messages here, like that, and I actually want to append these returned messages onto this array. So to do that a little more clearly, I'm going to say fetched messages is actually equal to this try here, and messages will just append the contents of this fetched messages array, and we have to unwrap it like that. Okay, I'm going to run this application now, and we now get these two messages here. So let's run that again, and we'll see what we get. Running that one more time, and now that looks pretty good. So there's actually one more final issue with this list, and I'm going to illustrate that. Hopefully I will be able to do it by creating a Donald friend right there. This will equal that. And this Donald friend will be very famous political character right now, Donald Trump himself, and Donald. So notice that if I create this friend right here and run, we don't actually get anything for Donald Trump because he doesn't yet have a message like that. And that's pretty good. And let's see, create a message with text. And this text will say, "You're fired." Like that. Our friend will be Donald. Minutes ago will be, let's say, 5 minutes ago. Context will just be context like that. So I'm going to run this application now. And you notice how Donald appears on the top of the list, even if he sent the message at 3:40. And we actually should be seeing the latest message at the top of the collection view. So having ran the application one more time, you notice that the ordering is not being preserved, or there's no ordering from this list of messages that we get. So the final fix for this is to actually say messages equal messages dot sort. So in order to sort something, you have to use these two curly braces and use 0 for the first item of the array that you're trying to sort, and call date, which is a property on message, and we'll use question mark sort like this, and we'll sort the second object by using $1 and date bang like that equals ordered descending. Okay, let's see, sort, let's see that, let's see, sort. Okay, so we actually don't want to use sort. We want to use a method called compare, like that. And we can actually use a bang there and a bang there, it doesn't really matter. So having called the sort with descending, we get 346 on top and 346 right there. So to better illustrate this actual timing, I'm going to use 3, 2, and 1 for Steve Jobs messages. And you'll notice that Mark Zuckerberg occurs on the very top with his message of 347, 46, and 42. So the list looks pretty good. And that's all we kind of need. So I want to fix this actual Trump, his actual message here. So I have Donald Trump profile, and I want to import it into the assets catalog by doing that, and then going back to our profile here. So I believe it's underscore Trump, like so. And run the application one more time, and we get hopefully his profile image showing up. So pretty good. Now, the final question is, we should actually see these messages upon clicking each one of these rows. So I'm going to go into this file browser here, create a new file. So I'm going to create this actual chat log controller. And we get that. And so I'm going to import UIKit class, call this chat log controller. Actually subclass it as a UI collection view controller. And while we're here, we'll use delegate flow layout as the conform protocol. Here we'll use view did load, super view did load, like that. And then this chat log will contain a property of friend. So use friend like that, did set here. I'm going to show you how I'm going to use this chat log controller right now. So let's go to view controller and go into friends controller. And we'll use a override of collection view, did select item at index path right here. And we'll create this chat log controller just like this. So chat log controller, I just build to get it in the autocomplete. And collection view controllers need a collection view layout like this, with layout up here being a UI collection view flow layout like that. And finally, we need to push it onto the navigation controller stack by doing push with controller and true as animated. So pretty good. And finally, I want to set this friend object on controller to be something. So this friend object is actually pretty easy to get, and we get it from this messages array. So messages question mark index path dot item dot friend. That will be the friend of the row we click on to. So if we click on Steve Jobs, we get the actual friend object passed into the chat log controller. So every time we set it, we will call navigation item dot title equals friend dot name like that. And then finally, I want to actually change the collection view background color to a white color like so. Having done that, every time I click onto a row, I'll get the name of Steve Jobs on top, just like that, for each friend. And I actually want to show for this tutorial the actual text messages belonging to Steve Jobs. And that's very easy if we have a cell class like this. So basically, a collection view works like this. I'm going to explain this one more time. At the risk of repeating myself, collection view needs to return a number of items for each section, and this will simply be something that we decide right now. And the easiest way of specifying the number of rows for this collection view is to create a messages array like this, and then inside of did set for friend, we say messages, so messages array equals friend.messages. And you notice how messages is an NS set, so we call all objects like that as a message array, like so. And finally, we have to return messages.count like this, and safely unwrap it like this. Return the count if we have one, otherwise return 0. And the other method we have to override is cell for item at index path, right there. And we need to return a dequeued cell for index path. And let's fix this cell ID here that we are going to provide. So private let cell ID equals anything. Doesn't really matter what this is, as long as you have a string up there. Next bit is to actually register a cell class like this. And this cell class, we will actually use a class of, let's see, chat log message cell, and we'll use a base cell as our subclass. Here we'll use setup views. So let's call super setup views. And remember, base cell is actually declared inside of view controller. And a base cell is basically just a simple UI collection view cell that has this set of views method that we can override. And set of views is called in an init frame, which is called whenever a cell is dequeued. All right, now the final bit of magic that we have to apply is we have to register this cell. So let's finish up by doing this, dot self, and cell identifier will be cell ID. So if we run this now, I don't believe we'll see anything just yet. So, okay, good. And let me just illustrate what background color equals UI color, blue color. And that will give us 3 blue cells for 3 of the messages that we get for Steve Jobs. Finally, I want to stretch all of these cells from edge to edge horizontally by going to layout, specify items, cell. This will return CG size, make, view frame width, and we'll just use 100 for the height. So I'm going to run this now one more time, and we'll see for each cell we have height of 100, width expanding left to right. Finally, we'll add a message text view here, UI text view, and we'll create it inside of this block here. So text view is UI text view. Text view dot font is UI font, system font of, let's say 16 for now. And we'll just return this text view here and close that by paren. And let's just do this. Text view dot text equals sample message, like so. And I can actually get rid of this blue color now because I'm going to add this subview onto the hierarchy of the cell. And we'll call this message text view like that. Finally, we'll add constraints with format, which will simply place it left edge to right edge like this, message text view. And having done that, I'm going to also use vertical constraints to put it onto the screen. I'm going to run, so the blue is removed, and we're adding this sample text onto the text right there. Okay. Final bit, I guarantee the last part, is to simply specify the message text onto this cell right here. And we do that very simply by saying let cell equals that, return the actual cell, and we'll set the text by first downcasting this cell class to a chat log message cell, and we'll set the message, cell dot message text view, I believe. see. Okay, so this actually needs to be a non-array. So just like that, dot text equals messages index path dot item dot text. So basically it gets the correct message inside of the array and just presents it inside of here. So pretty good. Now the first problem I see, or the only problem for now, is that these messages are not sorted in the correct time order. Now remember, if I go into the insert data here, it should say good morning, hello, how are you, and are you interested in buying an Apple device in order from top to bottom, like that. And the reason why it is not correct is because the fetch order of these messages on our friend.messages is not in any particular order. So basically, I want to apply this same sort here. So I'm going to go down here, and this sort here, I'm going to apply onto this chat log controller by just copy and pasting sort like that. So having ran that, you'll get a sorted array of messages. And in this case here, we actually want to sort by ascending. So that. And now we'll get the first message up on top, and it is now in ascending order, and it is showing the messages as they are incoming by date. So pretty good. I hope that was straightforward enough. And let's see. Yep, that's pretty much it for this video tutorial. And in the next one, I want to actually go into detail on how to build out these individual text backgrounds so that they actually fit the text inside of these little bubbles. And you notice how it just fits nicely inside of each row, and the row size knows exactly how tall it should be. And so basically we're going to transform that into this view here. And that is not as hard as you would think. It's pretty straightforward as long as you calculate the size of your text properly. So yeah, that is it for today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please press the thumbs up. It really does help out me in terms of gauging how well the video content is doing. And make sure if you like the video, always subscribe. That way I can get the count to go up and I can put out more videos more quickly. Until next time, enjoy.